Good evening, fourth grade mathematicians. Welcome to Flip Math for tonight. Tonight, our subject is reasoning and comparing fractions. Please pause the video so that you can copy down your learning objective. I can compare two fractions with different numerators and denominators. All right, let's get started. As you see, we have been working on strategies for comparing fractions for the majority of this week. Step 1 is to look to see if the fractions have the same numerator or the same denominator. 2, find a common numerator or a common denominator. Strategy 3 would be to use a visual model such as an area model, which usually you use grid paper for, fraction bars, which are your rectangles that are partitioned equally, or number lines. Only use visual models if one of the denominators is a multiple of another denominator. So that means if you count by one of the denominators and you say the other one, then a visual model is a good one to use. Also, determine if one of the fractions is greater than, less than, or equal to 1/2. And you can see the models that were provided. On a number line, if you can divide it in half and plot the fractions on the number line, you can tell which one is greater than, less than, or equal to 1/2, and then compare which one of those is greater using a comparison statement. In the example provided, 1/4 is less than 7/10 because 1/4 is less than 1/2 and 7/10 is greater than 1/2. You can also compare the distance of each fraction to a benchmark such as 1/2 or 1/2. In the example provided above, 1/4 or 7/10, we know that 7/10 is closer to being 1/2 because 10/10 makes a whole, so we're closer to it than if we were looking at the fourth, which is further away from the whole or the half. So you don't have to copy this down because we've copied this already this week, but you might want to refer back to this slide just to make sure that you can compare the fractions we're getting ready to look at. So let's practice. Cakes on the counter. There are two cakes on the counter that are the same size. The first cake has half of it left. The second cake has 5/12 left. Which cake has more left? You can see in the examples provided. Student 1, Student 2, and Student 3 all used 3 different strategies to compare these fractions. In our first model, an area model was utilized, and it says the first cake has more left over, and the second cake has 5/12 left over, which is smaller than 1/2. You can see from the visual models drawn, this represents 1/2. This represents the model with 5/12. Notice that they are the same size. You must always create models that are the same size to truly compare your fractions precisely and accurately. So you see here that 5/12 is smaller than the half because we know that 1/2 is also equivalent to 6/12. On our second model, a number line was used. And again, we have the first cake, which 1/2 was eaten, and our second cake, 1/2 was left, and the second cake, 5/12 are left. So you can see that more of the other cake is left over from the first cake. In the last model, Student 3 used a verbal explanation that states, I know that 6/12 equals 1/2. Therefore, the second cake, which has 5/12 left, is less than 1/2. So, again, our first cake has more cake left over. Sometimes you may get confused and think, well, wait, no, you might be reflecting on how much was already eaten. But we want to know how much is left over, not how much was eaten. So again, because it asks which cake has more left, the one that has 6/12 left is more than the one that has 5/12. So the first cake is the one that has the most left over. Now we're going to do 2 more practice examples that you will use as your homework for tonight. You will need to solve these and then place them in your math notebook and bring to class tomorrow for your teacher to go over with you. So now it is time for you to show what you know. Sorry about that, little technical difficulty. All right, here we go. Maggie and Keisha each bought a cookie at the cafeteria. Maggie ate 3/5 of a cookie. Keisha ate 7/10 of a cookie. Who ate more? What strategy will you use to solve? And why did you choose that strategy? Solve using the strategy that you've chosen. And then, in your final answer, tell us who ate more and write a comparison statement using greater than, less than, or equal to. Our second example, Keenan walks 2/3 of a mile to school each day. Juan walks 7/9 of a mile to school each day. Who walks the farthest to get to school? What strategy will you use to solve and why? Solve using your chosen strategy, and then tell us who walks the farthest using a comparison statement of greater than, less than, or equal to. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Happy solving, boys and girls.